Guys, with all that nonsense out of the way, let's get into some real stuff here, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. The event happened last night. Last of Us episode 2 of season 2 dropped, and something that I, for almost a year, have said I don't think they're going to do till near the end of the season. Well, they did it. In episode 2, they went a-golfing. And it happened. And I'll tell you what. First of all, let's do this. The episode came out last night. If you're really into Game of Thrones or Last of Us, you've probably seen. So we're going to put up the spoiler alert here. So, because we are going to talk about, we're not going to do a full hour-long spoiler discussion here, but we probably will mention some details. So if you've not seen last night's episode of The Last of Us, as long as this spoiler alarm is there, you might want to mute your television, laptop, computer, iPad, or phone. And then once this spoiler alert comes down, then you can go ahead and turn it on.
Let's go read about the Batman 2 cancellation and come back.
Sorry about letting you know about the Batman 2 cancellation. So they go golf and they kill off Joel in that episode. Now, just for those of you who don't know, it does happen very early in game 2. Like very early. I just thought since they were splitting game 2 into 2 seasons, I thought they would stretch it out. Let me talk about just a couple things. They continue the tradition that they started in season 1, where Druckmann and Craig Mazin decided we're not handcuffed to doing everything exactly the way it was done in the game. There are elements that they do extremely close to the game, and then they take some wild liberties. And every time in season 1 that they took wild liberties, it enhanced the show.
That was my nickname in college.
Enhanced?
No, Wild Liberties.
Wild.
Canceled.
Those two have 2 different overtures. Anyway.
And
so, last night, same thing. In certain aspects, they stayed very close to the way the events unfolded in the game, but then they took some massive liberties as well, such as the events are going on in the chateau, there happens to be a zombie horde infected raid of Jackson, right? And it was basically Helm's Deep. It was Helm's Deep in the world of The Last of Us. It was amazing. It was so good. And again, just let me reiterate, good dogs, good boys. What the fuck would cats have done if they unleashed a wad of Disneyland feral cats? Nothing. They would have licked their asses and looked at you while you're getting eaten. That's what they would have done. But dogs saved the day. Anyway.
But not lions.
No, not lions. I'll give you that. The dogs saved the day. So that was absolutely insane and incredible. I was telling Rob, like, that scene where you get a glimpse of it in one of the trailers where Caitlin is like shimmying between a building and a fence, and there's a whole bunch of fence, and then the fence collapses. And like, that is actually that's one of the most stressful sequences of television I've seen all year. Like, my stomach was in my throat, and I know what happens. And my stomach was still in my throat. I couldn't believe it. The music choice to play at the end of the episode was so inspired, like so bang on the money. It was just a fabulous episode. I still don't think it was the best episode of The Last of Us. I still think season 1, episode 3 holds that title. But my God, if this is what we're getting. And you know what? I had a moment of reflection last night. We were doing the post-game show. And I talked about how, like, I've been really thinking for a year now that they would save the death of Joel until later in season 2 and deviate from the game that way. But when I think about it now, that was kind of silly of me to think, because the death of Joel is what actually starts the real story of The Last of Us 2. The real story of The Last of Us 2 doesn't start. It doesn't get sparked. It doesn't get ignited unless Joel dies. And so I feel kind of silly now, like not having thought of that. And now looking at it in hindsight, it's like, yeah, I probably should have realized it then. Anyway, overall, I think it's the second best episode of The Last of Us we've had so far. Certainly best of the season. It sets a really high bar now moving forward. And I don't know how they're going to top themselves. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the episode last night. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I mean, it goes down in history as an incredible episode of horror television. I mean, it was one of the things that I've really liked, and they started this in season 1, is how they've sort of expanded the mythology of the cordyceps infection.
Yeah.
And how, and this, they set it up great, like with the pipes, and you saw the cordyceps, gone through the pipes, and
The
they did
little,
something.
fungi tendril.
Yeah, the
coming
fungi
out.
tendrils, and that whole thing when the idea of these buried bodies were still alive, you know, and that whole thing was an addition to the mythology that was so smart and so scary, and so, like, how do you keep making it interesting? Because eventually the cordyceps infection, people just get bored of it. Like, how do you keep change things up?
Yeah.
They use the environment in the after show. They talked about, they shot that in a real blizzard up on Whistler Mountain in Vancouver. And the idea that Druckmann and Mason had is that there's storms coming in on every level, personal storms, an actual storm, a storm of the infected. And all of that worked, each part of it worked to accentuate the other part of it. I mean, it was you're watching this and, like, literally all hell is breaking loose on a personal level and on a community level, on an existential level. It was so good in so many levels. And what you want, that's what great adaptations do. Great adaptations stay true to the spirit of what you're adapting, but then they add something. I mean, I was talking to Chris about this at the beginning of the show. When you're playing a game, you're the protagonist. You're in the position of the protagonist.
Right.
When you're sitting back and watching a drama that you have to watch unfold, it's a totally different experience. And it's a lot harder for the people that are turning a video game into a drama to make it as engaging to viewers. And remember, most of the people watching this have not played the game. So you have to turn it into something. You have to do what a great adaptation does. And John, like you said, episode 3, but that episode last night was what I wanted the long night in Game of Thrones to be.
Yeah.
When John was mentioning Helm's Deep, I was like, this feels like the long night to me.
Yeah, and it was just, but during the day.
Except you could actually see what was happening.
Yeah,
All shots fired.
But it had the personal stakes. I mean, the long night was cool, but it didn't resonate the way it should have. This was just the most apocalyptic. When you saw the end, when the aftermath and how many people had died and how many of the infected were, it was like the most apocalyptic. It was unbelievable. It was what Jerusalem looked like in World War Z, but you didn't get to see that aftermath really. It was unbelievable. They just were like, yeah, we watched World War Z, we watched The Long Night. Well, hold our beer. I mean, I loved it. It was so good.
Chris, you had a chance to watch it,
Yeah.
and maybe through, two
Well, it was a lot of
fingers
this.
on your
A lot of
hand.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about the episode?
Well, first of all, what a way to come down from WrestleMania. I had watched 2 days of WrestleMania and was like, oh, yay, The Last of Us. Oh, no. Within the first 5 minutes was just, oh, this is going to be bad. To do this on Easter Sunday, on 420, what were you all thinking? We viewers were not prepared.
Well, you want a resurrection? Here's a
There
crucifixion.
we go. Yeah, it was rough. This was so well done. And to piggyback off of what Rob was saying too, the thing with video games, right, is you are playing as that character. You experience agency, right? This is what I'm always going on about video games, is you feel that power or lack thereof of being able to initiate things and choose things.
Right, yeah.
And one of the brilliant things in the game was how powerless you feel during that scene with Abby, because you can't stop it. And this, mixed in with the horde coming in there, just amplified that feeling of helplessness so much.
Yep.
Because while we all obviously love Joel and Pedro Pascal and everything, I was wondering, how are we going to have that same emotional pull, especially doing this fairly early in the show? Oh, I know we've had the whole last season with him, but still, this is a really bold move to do this now. And they really, really nailed it. Gosh, just the little movement on the ground, too, is just so heartbreaking. It's so
when she's
well
yelling,
done.
Joel, get up, Joel, get up. Here's the most heartbreaking part for me. She's yelling, Joel, get up, Joel, get up. And then his face moves a little and his hand moves. And then the camera cuts back to Ellie. And just for a brief second, this slight look of hope comes on her face. only to be dashed.
It's
It's like that was like the most emotionally devastating thing to me. That was
the,
crazy.
The two of them, it's a masterclass in acting. And anyone who has anything negative to say about Bella Ramsey, you don't know what good acting is. You just don't. It's literally hitting you in the face. They are doing a wonderful, wonderful job here. So great, so well executed. And I mean that in every sense of the word. I really just love what they did with this episode. And I also love that Abby explains the why. Because in the game, there is that kind of idea of, does Joel know why this is happening to him? Or does he go to his death just going, well, I'm probably paying for one of my sins.
One of my many sins.
Yeah,
And accepts it. And I love the, oh, okay, I know exactly
You know
who
what
my
else I loved?
executioner is.
He never tried to defend himself.
Exactly.
I don't mean physically. I even mean verbally. Never tried
No.
to defend
But
himself.
Pedro Pascal in his silence, just listening, was awesome. The whole thing was
Oh,
awesome.
so good.
And her performance when you can see she's completely around the bend, and her compatriots are like, oh man, she's gone.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing they can do. And again, another storm brewing that is going to lay waste to everything. Oh man, it was
You know what
really
the
well
other thing,
done.
especially at that end, is she's watching Joel die. There was a moment that I think is the most important moment of the episode that I think it just glossed over really quickly. As she's talking to, and I forget the name of the guy that she's out on, that Ellie's on patrol with. I forget his name.
Jesse?
Is that his name? Okay.
Believe so.
So he's like, oh, you and Joel are on the outs. And she says, because remember, she's been an absolute brat, right? Ellie's been an absolute brat. But they take a quick moment for her to turn and just say, look, I'm still me, Joel's still Joel, and nothing is ever going to change that. But acknowledge, yeah, we're on the outs right now. But I mean, in that moment, she was basically implying he loves me, I love him. That's never going to change. We're going to have a daddy-daughter day. But like, she still thanks. And here's the brilliance of it. The brilliance of it is when she watches Joel die, now she has to live with the grief that Abby lived through, compounded with the fact that she has been an absolute asshole to him for a while. And I think that, like, what I said on the after show last night, as Ellie was laying there watching Joel die, we saw the birth of a monster.
right.
Right? Like that, like a little bit of Ellie died. It's kind of like Batman in the alley watching his parents die. A little bit of Ellie died and a little bit of a monster was born. Because now, and if they hadn't set it up, like if they had set it up where just like in episode 1, everything was fine with Joel and Ellie, and then they just had one fight. Okay. But she's been horrible to him for a while. And now she's got to live with, he died having the last 6 months, last year, of me being an absolute awful, demonic little brat to him. And now, so like the grief compounded now with the guilt is going to lay the framework for what she turns into. And
It's
some
it's
really
biblical.
horrible things she's going to do this season.
Yeah, I mean that's what great writing is, and you know I hope people recognize we're getting something that they've taken the game that was already great and elevated to such a high dramatic level. I mean, I watch this and I'm like, I marvel at the writing and the directing. They on the after show last night, the director was talking about kind of that he was scared. He was scared about tackling this, and especially that scene. Like, how do you do that scene? How do you stage that scene? I thought, because in the game, you don't have these beautiful bay windows that are looking out on the bucolic countryside, which has now become just terrifying. Like, it's more of like in a barn or something. It's where it's all, and I thought, what a great idea putting it in this place that normally, when the real world was here, this would be an amazing place to be, sitting in this chateau, and you have this background, and it was so incongruous with what was going to happen. I was like, man, this is so well thought out. This is so well done.
Can I tell you guys the one thing that really bothered me about the episode? This is just the one thing, and it happened several times, and every time it happened, it pulled me out of the show for a split moment. Here it is. We're never gonna survive this blizzard. Oh, it's so cold and the wind's blowing the snow. Next camera angle. Beautiful weather, no wind, no snow falling. Cut to the next shot. Oh, we got to get inside. And then you see the snow and the wind. Next shot, totally calm air, sunny day. And I'm just like, They really needed to pay attention to detail. They probably should have used a little post visual effects to make those shots feel a little windy or whatever. Because when those happen, that always pulled me out of it. Because again, like the cold and the blizzard is why Joel didn't immediately ride back to Jackson to help defend the town.
Right.
Because it was just understood in that weather, he'll never make it. He'll die before he gets there. And then they cut to a shot of Abby outside, and it's just totally beautiful. It's sunny, no snow is falling. And I thought, they should have been a little bit more aware of that. But that was like literally my only note. That was my only note on the whole show. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about last night's episode of The Last of Us? I thought it delivered in spades. I'm so happy with it. How did you guys feel about it? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.